fine. Everything's fine. Are you okay? We're good? Everything good?
Yeah, we're all good. We're fine. How are you?
So the amount of messages honestly has been heartwarming in terms of people just reaching out asking if we're okay.
Yeah.
And we are totally okay. And it's like, it's awesome, kind of like, oh, you guys missed us because we were off unexpectedly for a week and now we're back.
Yeah.
Everything's good though.
Yeah. So sorry for kind of the radio silence on my part and everything. Just to let everybody know, I've been moving, and it's to a new place. So we are still waiting for internet to be installed. So that's kind of putting a big wrench in a lot of things. I thought I got the process started early enough, being months ago, and that was not the case. So, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll be back to our normal production schedule soon. We're going to be doing kind of a double episode week at some point just to get caught up and everything. Yeah. But apologies, and thank you everybody. Yeah, for sure, for being concerned about us. That's very touching. But we are all good. It's just been some weird, unforeseen logistical issues. So
okay, we'll be honest. Let's just be honest. Here's what happened. Okay, we went to go film The Mandalorian Grogu. We're in the movie.
You're right. No. We wish. Not at all. I wish there was something exciting that I could pretend like that would be the reason I haven't been online and stuff. But it's just because the internet does not exist for where I am most of the time. So.
Well, just to kind of get caught up on everything, the Andor Season 2 trailer has not dropped yet. And here's what I'm thinking, Matt, because a lot of people are starting to ask online, when is this thing coming? But this is the cycle that we find ourselves in with Star Wars television. Every single time a new show comes out, we're always wondering, wait a second, when is the trailer coming? And we always forget that they don't start marketing really until at most a month and a half out. So I'm kind of expecting, Mac, like a trailer maybe next week or the week after that. That's when I'm thinking the first official trailer is coming.
Yeah, I'm eager to see some more footage. That teaser trailer was or not the teaser, but just like the little things we've gotten have been great. But I need to know what season 2 is going to look like, feel like. I want to know who the characters are, what the situations are. I don't know. I need more information because I could not be more excited for a Star Wars show coming out.
Yeah. And what's so cool is, the culmination of it coming out is it's coming out on April 22nd. We don't know how many episodes they're going to do, but with season 1, they did 3. So I'm expecting at least 2 episode premiere, maybe 3 episode premiere on April 22nd. But that's like a few days after Star Wars Celebration, because that weekend is Star Wars Celebration in Japan. So there's going to be a lot of fun, incredible announcements. I'm kind of expecting those who go to Star Wars Celebration will probably get to see the first few episodes a little early, I'm guessing. So it's going to be one of those situations like if you don't go to Star Wars Celebration, just go ahead and not be on the internet for a week or 2 days. You know what I mean? Like until you watch it, you probably want to stay off. I think it's going to be one of those situations. But yeah, I'm so excited because, we're almost finished with February, which is somehow feels like the longest month in the year, but it's the shortest. And then, we're in March, and that means we're just 1 month away from Andor Season 2. And we're preparing for Andor Season 2 currently by rewatching every single episode of Andor Season 1 and covering it scene by scene, episode by episode. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. And I cannot wait to talk about this episode with you.
Yeah, absolutely. This rewatch has just been reminding me how much I love this freaking show and just how special it is and how excited I am for this season 2. I especially think this episode we're covering today, episode 4, it's a turning point in the series because it takes it from this introductory arc where we're being introduced to really just Cassian as a character. That's the primary focus, in addition to kind of the other players that are on the board and stuff. But really the main focus is this is how Cassian kind of gets kickstarted into the fight, you know?
Yeah.
But this is the first glimpse we see of like, what is it going to look like with Cassian actually working for the rebellion? What does the rebellion look like at this stage in the game? Like what are they up to? What's the organizational structure? How do they look and feel? Yeah, and then we're also getting a lot more in-depth information about Luthen, and I think that's a super cool, bit of just deepening of the story. Episode 4 is really special.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in this episode too, like true Easter eggs, not like cameos of like people that we've seen before, but like true, like what the definition of Easter egg is in this particular episode. And I cannot wait to talk about all of them with you.
For sure. You are listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell, and today we are breaking down the 4th episode of Andor for our Rix Road to Season 2 of Andor. If you're new to our podcast, we break down every single episode of Star Wars television, scene by scene, to analyze the story, find comfort Easter eggs, and explain how it all connects to the larger Star Wars universe. And we would love to have that conversation with you, not only on the podcast, but also on our social media platforms at COT Watch, on Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram. Mac, I think we're also on YouTube.
Yeah, we are on YouTube. We might be on YouTube right now. I'm not sure if the internet situation is going to allow that. This will eventually be on YouTube, regardless.
In the future.
And then we'll be, doing really in-depth YouTubing during Andor Season 2 coming out, of course, and everything like that.
In the year 3000.
But keep up with us on all of our social medias. If you want more of what we do, you can join our Patreon. We've got a Discord community that's really active and stuff. Apologies for being away from that for a while. I was trying to save on my my data.
You had a good excuse.
Yeah. Check out the Patreon.
Speaking of, I'm glad you brought up the Patreon, because we just finished our first ever real book club that we did. And in fact, we did like an episode where we had a Zoom call and our Patreon members joined in on that Zoom call. And we talked about Darth Bane, Path of Destruction after reading it together on our Discord, which is exclusively in our Patreon, patreon.com/The Mandalorian Watch. And guess what we're going to do next, Mac? We're going to do Reign of the Empire, Mask of Fear, which comes out Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, and it ties into exactly what we're preparing for right now with Andor. So the focus of that book is going to be Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera in the year after Revenge of the Sith. I can't think of a better way to prepare for Andor on the Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, that's right on the money as far as getting us amped and excited for some new espionage and rebellion and all that. So, I think we should probably just get into the breakdown.
Oh, please. I'm so excited to talk about this episode. This is episode 4, Aldhani. Not my favorite title of an episode, but this is honestly, I think when I saw this episode the first time through, which would be just week 2, right? Because you saw all 3 in one sitting, when it came out originally. This was when I was like, I am fully bought into this show now. Like, I wasn't sure maybe in the first arc, like, okay, that was kind of slow. There was a slow burn to it. And there's a slow burn element to this episode, but like you said, we get insight into how the rebellion is operating. We get more information on who Luthen is, or we at least get hints. And then, of course, the introduction of Mon Mothma as a main character into the show, I think just elevates the show in a way that it didn't have in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's, it is a lot of dialogue, a lot of exposition and that kind of thing in this episode. It's a lot of scenes of people talking, not a lot of action or anything like that. However, it is all the exposition is about stuff that we already know and care about, like the rebellion, like the character of Mon Mothma. We immediately already, especially, you know, us who are a little bit more than casual Star Wars fans, Mon Mothma's huge, you know, and
Right.
immediately we're like, okay, you've got my attention. Like the leader of the Rebel Alliance and you know, eventual first chancellor of the New Republic and everything. Yeah, I want to see what she's up to during the early days. Like, so yeah, it is still kind of a slower pace, a slower feel, but it's all about stuff that immediately grabs your attention. So I think that's kind of what differentiates this episode.
Yeah. And so the director for this episode is Susanna White, and the writer is Dan Gilroy. So we got a new team on this episode, and I think you can feel it a little bit. Yeah. Like, okay, there's kind of a different vibe to this episode than the last three. So let's jump into the breakdown. The episode opens with Luthen and Cassian traveling through hyperspace aboard a Fondor Hallcraft on their way to Aldhani. As the ship hums through the void, Andor rummages through a compartment, searching for a med pack, but Rael, Luthen, offers him a drink of mednog, a concoction to help ease the pain, but Andor remains focused on his task. I would love to taste some mednog. Is it like eggnog, you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I was immediately thinking, is it actually like a medicinal drink, like strictly, or is it kind of the joke of like, oh, what are you taking that for that cold? You know, like what kind of cough medicine you taking there or whatever. I don't know if it's just a flask of something or if it's actually like Bacta infused or something like that.
I take it that it's actually infused with something, because I feel, and I could be totally wrong about this because it's been a while, but I feel like in an upcoming episode they talk about it again, where it's like, and it's used to like, hey, I'm hurt, and they call it mednog again. It's like in that moment I felt like it probably wasn't a joke. I don't know. So maybe, I don't know. But it feels very video game, right?
Yeah, for sure. Here, take this this health pack or
elixir.
Yeah, red potion. You know, give you 3 hearts back.
Yeah. So his curiosity about Aldhani emerges, prompting Luthen to present him with 2 options. He can be dropped off on a random planet, or he can join Luthen in a larger fight. And seeing Andor's potential as a skilled thief, Luthen suggests that he puts his talents to use, offering him a chance to strike at the Empire and to get paid for it. So it's like he's kind of pitching him again like he did in episode 3, because maybe Cassian's kind of having a little bit of, now that we're away, I'm not so sure I actually want to go through with this. What is it you want to do again? You know,
right.
So it's one of those moments.
The pressure's off now. It's not like he's starting to see a few more ways out potentially than just going with Luthen, I think.
Yeah.
So, which is good for the show, because I think it brings Cassian's real motivations and values into question again, which is something that we need to kind of keep wrestling with. I think the show does a really good job of keeping us in suspense of, is Cassian actually going to be like the hero we want him to be, or is he like is Han Solo going to come back at the end of New Hope, I guess?
Yeah.
Or is he just like in it for the money, you know, looking out for himself?
Right. Andor, ever cautious, probes Luthen's motives, wondering whether the man is a rebel or a partisan. And he uses that term specifically, you know, trying to, I think, draw the audience connection to Saw Gerrera's partisans.
Yep.
I think, you know, that's what they're called. Luthen doesn't offer a straightforward answer. Instead, he highlights Cassian's survival instincts, acknowledging his ability to steal, to endure, and to live. Andor, uninterested in lofty ideals, is more concerned with his survival, and he opens up slightly, revealing he spent 2 years in prison and fought on the planet Mimban at 16, where he was part of a unit of 50 soldiers who survived. And that's a really cool connection, because we've actually seen and been to Mimban before in Solo.
Yeah, the really muddy place where Han meets Chewie for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to think that's the same battle, and that's just 16-year-old Cassian is somewhere around there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really cool. I like that's the interconnectedness that I love about Star Wars. Like Han and Cassian don't necessarily directly have to interact or anything, but yeah, maybe they were present at the same battle. They kind of came up doing some of the same stuff. Yeah, I like that connection.
Yeah. And then Mimban was also a planet in the EU that was in a book called Splinter of the Mind's Eye that was written right after A New Hope. And George Lucas got Alan Dean Foster, who's the author of that book, to go ahead and write like a sequel to Star Wars in case it wasn't successful. And so that's like kind of, so like the plan was if it wasn't successful, the idea that's in that book of Splinter of the Mind's Eye would be like a low budget version of what the sequel would be that George would just make on his own without a studio help. And it's like very kind of low key, lower budget. And he basically just let him go ahead and publish that with those ideas in there and still made The Empire Strikes Back. So I thought that was kind of cool. I just wanted to include that in there.
It's something that would never happen today, but I think is really cool that we have that in existence.
I wish it would though. Like what's your plan B? Just, let's see it. What was your plan B here?
We kind of get that with a lot of like I think of the Colin Trevorrow script being leaked and Duel of the Fates and stuff like that. I think that's our modern day equivalent.
Yeah. Have you read that? Have you ever read that all the way through?
Not all the way through.
There's actually like concept art that goes with that script that like pretty much confirms, that script is real. I like a lot of ideas in it, but I think people would have hated it too. It's just kind of the age we live in. So, however, back to the show. However, Luthen quickly points out that Andor's true survival came from fleeing the battlefield and hiding in the kitchen as a cook, not as a soldier. Luthen presses further, suggesting that Andor's experiences having to fight to survive under the Empire should have made him hate the Galactic Empire even more. He sees potential in Cassian to be a part of something bigger, a chance to help bring down the Empire. So Luthen lays it out plainly. He came for Andor because he believes he can be a crucial part of their cause. And so to sweeten the deal, Luthen offers Cassian a hefty sum, 200,000 credits if he agrees to join him on a mission to steal the quarterly payroll of an entire Imperial sector.
Yeah. So huge target. We've definitely moved past like a Star Path unit to, this is actually going to make some meaningful progress for the rebellion. Yeah. And then also that's a life-changing amount of money for Cassian. Like he lives a different life after that, So I like that kind of the Sophie's choice of like, do I live for myself or live for the cause? The stakes are raised on both of those,
Yeah, and, I think at the end of this arc, we get an answer on where Cassian actually lies in terms of, is he in it for the money or is he in it for the actual cause? And we see him make a progressive step towards one of those things at the end of this arc. And it is a lot of money. I mean, think back to A New Hope when Han says it's it'd be 20,000 or whatever, and to take them, and Luke is like 20,000. He's like
you can buy a ship for 20,000 apparently. So that's you can basically start whatever business you want, and you're living a different life after that.
Yeah. So the stakes are high, and Luthen's offer hangs in the air as Cassian weighs his options. And then we transition to Coruscant, and this was so cool to see. I love seeing Coruscant, and I love how, Mac, there is a different look to Coruscant under the Empire.
Yeah, I was especially paying attention on this watch through because it is a rewatch, so I have I'm awarded the chance to look at some different things and focus on some different stuff. I love like the brutalist style they used for what I think of as kind of the imperial political sector. We see it. We see it here. We see it like where Mon Mothma lives and in the street that Luthen's shop is on and stuff. I think of it kind of as DC, right? There's this whole city outside of it, but there's this like inner part of it that's just where all the politicians and businesses catering to that crowd and all the office buildings and everything live and work, and that's kind of the equivalent. I love that it has this distinct like brutalist style, and you can still see in the backgrounds in a lot of these shots in this episode the prequel style of Coruscant that we're used to, the more rounded buildings and less grounded feeling architecture and stuff. So I really like what they've done with creating the environment.
They've also done something I think pretty interesting creatively, where a lot of times in the prequels we saw Coruscant as, especially in the daytime, the sun is shining and gleaming off of the buildings. We do not see that at all anymore. And I think that's kind of like a tonal shift too for Coruscant of like, it's dreary, it's dark here now. The sun is not shining on Coruscant any longer. And I thought that was a really cool artistic choice by the creators of the show to kind of show Coruscant in that light. Because even at night on Coruscant in the prequels, there's all those neon lights and stuff. It's still bright, and it's all that's gone. Yeah. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. At the heart of the Galactic Empire on Coruscant, the Imperial Security Bureau, ISB, Supervisor Deidre Miro attends a high-stakes meeting at the ISB headquarters. And if you're not familiar with the ISB, they have been around in Star Wars for a while, but this is really the first time we get to see them operating in any sort of capacity that like we're actually paying attention to. They're like the FBI of the Empire.
I think they're more like the CIA.
Yeah.
I think the connotation and the reputation they have is more similar to the CIA than the FBI, and kind of the function they perform, because they're the Imperials that the other Imperials are afraid of and don't like. Like they're also kind of the internal affairs department and everything for the Empire, and they're skilled in like torture and interrogation and things like that we would associate more with the CIA, I think. So, it's, but it's a really interesting sector of the Empire that we've put a lot of focus on, recently. My favorite, I think Sinjir,
I was about to say
favorite ISB agent representative in the canon. He's a character in Aftermath who becomes a rebel afterwards, but he still has this icy, cruel kind of demeanor that is off-putting to a lot of people just because he's done some heinous things in his time, I think. So
I was about to say my favorite ISB character is Sinjir because the Aftermath book. So yeah, for sure. We're in agreement there. So the session kicks off with Supervisor Grandi, who reports a concerning trend, a rise in quarterly detentions across the Ryloth sector. Well, of course.
Yeah.
Shamsandula, all that.
Free Ryloth, like it's been happening for decades. Their fight's not changed, really.
Just go back to the very first season of the Clone Wars, and we're seeing Ryloth does not like anybody in control of them, whether it be the Republic, the Empire, Separatists.
Yeah.
They just want to be on their own.
Free Ryloth.
That's right. So this surge threatens to undermine local authority, prompting a need to increase their Black Line budget. Major Leo Partagaz, however, demands more detailed information and is unsatisfied with Grandi's vague response about ramping up Imperial surveillance efforts. Partagaz is a fantastic actor and character. This guy, I 100% believe, is an Imperial. Just the way that he talks, the way that he just addresses everything. It's like, man, this guy's like Tarkin, like right under Tarkin in terms of the way he acts and moves. It's very similar.
Yeah. Love him so the actor plays Qyburn in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So yeah, love his work in both these shows.
Yeah. So Partagaz then turns his attention to Lagret, questioning him about the progress of his memorandum concerning the mining operations on Arvala 6, which has led the displacement of local populations. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. This is a little subtle hint to The Mandalorian, because the planet that Quill is on in the first episode of The Mandalorian, and the planet that they find baby Grogu on in the first episode of The Mandalorian, is Arvala 7. So this is happening a planet away, what they're talking about in Andor on Arvala 6. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Back to the interconnectedness. It's awesome.
Yeah. So Partagaz challenges the ISB officials about the core purpose of their agency, pressing for a deeper understanding. Miro answers, reiterating the official mission statement: the ISB exists to further security goals through intelligence gathering, analysis, and covert operations. However, Partagaz dismisses her response, calling it a rote repetition of their mission statement, and instead he compares the ISB to healthcare providers, treating only symptoms, not the underlying issues. He then reassigns Lagret's memorandum task to another official, and then shifting focus, Partagaz interrogates Blevin about an incident on Ferrix in the Morlana sector. Blevin reports that the incident falls under the jurisdiction of the corporate tactical forces and acknowledges that they encountered unexpected complications while trying to serve a warrant. And as Partagaz presses for more details, Blevin admits that several personnel were killed and property was damaged during the operation. I just got to pause, because one of the things that I was thinking about during the scene, Mac, was just like how on top of it, like their thumb is on, like, honestly, what are local issues? Like, these are not issues that on the surface seem like they would cause an empire, right?
Yeah.
A galactic empire to worry about anything, but they're so like putting their thumb on any little hint of rebellion.
Right. Yeah, for sure. One quick correction. Partagaz is not the guy that also plays Qyburn. He's later in the episode.
It is.
That up,
it
right?
is him.
It is.
It? No, yeah. It is.
Okay. I'm
sure.
confused. I just watched it. I don't know. Listeners, you let us know.
Partagaz the guy who's in charge, right? He's walking around. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's
Qyburn.
the under guy that interrogates the corporate people, though. I don't know.
No,
anyway.
that's Blevin. Blevin is the under guy. Blevin is the guy who, Blevin is the guy that Deidre is competing with.
Okay. Hopefully this was as helpful for the listeners as it was for me.
Well, these names we're not familiar with, because
correct.
They're new characters. All of these people we're seeing are brand new characters to Star Wars.
Yeah, but what you were saying about the ISB, you can tell that they are really trying to ramp up their efforts. They're focusing their attention on specific things. You get the sense that like they're trying to kind of increase their influence and stuff at this time. And you also immediately get a sense of all the competition that's happening within the ISB, with people vying for power within the organization and position and the good graces of the higher ups and everything. It's a really good. You immediately get a snapshot of everything that's going on in the ISB at this time.
Yeah, I do like the political plays that the ISB are doing against one another. Like that's interesting to me.
Yeah,
that
it's
there's
showing that the Empire is not this monolith, right? Like different parts of the Empire are competing against each other. Like I think the ISB is probably competing with like the Imperial Navy for budget and different things. They're basically yeah. So it's interesting to see that like the Empire is not just this one completely unified thing. There are different parts of it vying against each other.
Also, just a reminder that Gideon was once ISB before he proclaimed himself a Moff after the fall of Palpatine.
Right.
So like Gideon was one of these guys.
And so I think that kind of thirst for power and authority and influence and stuff, it's a common thread through the ISB.
Yeah. So Blevin reveals that a stolen Imperial Starpath unit was recovered from the scene. Blevin offers to look further into the matter, but Partagaz insists that they will speak in more detail once he leaves the meeting. Partagaz continues his questioning by asking Lani Jung about the increasing number of protection requests for shipments to the Abrian sector. Jung reports a rise in protected shipping to Scarif. It's a little hint to Rogue One.
Yeah, little foreshadowing. We know what happens on Scarif. No need to go into that now.
I wonder what those shipments are. I don't know. So as the meeting progresses, Deidre steals a glance at a screen, possibly noticing something that catches her interest or may have important implications for their next moves. Then we're on Aldhani, on the rugged, windswept hills of Aldhani, or Scotland. Andor takes on the alias Clem and shaves his beard, preparing for the next phase of his journey. And as he readies himself,
I love that he takes the name of his adoptive father. Kind of it shows too, because he has to kind of come up with it on the spot. It's pretty immediate. Like you can kind of see where his mind is at when this is all happening. Like he's thinking of his past, of home and his family.
Yeah. Also, some people look better with beards, and some people look better without them. And I think he's one of those guys who is more handsome without a beard.
He's just got that good
facial structure.
good nice clean face. It's good.
Good genes.
Mm-hmm. He's a handsome man, Diego Luna.
Yep. So as he readies himself, Luthen hands him a Quadi signet, a rare artifact forged to commemorate an ancient uprising against the Rakatan invaders. Oh my!
Let's go!
Oh my, Mac.
Yeah. So just real fast, get your bingo cards out. Knights of the Old Republic, very important for us. It's really cool. If you haven't played it, go do it. But the Rakatan Empire, the Infinite Empire, is a big part of the lore of that game and everything. And it's got this incredible mythos that so many EU stories centered around, and we just didn't have anything tying it to canon at all. The name Rakata, the name of Infinite Empire, did not appear in canon at all until Luthen said that, and that's why, like, I popped off the couch and jaw on the floor. Like, did he just say that? It was a big deal. I know it seems like a tiny little line, but it's a big deal.
It's one of the biggest deals I've ever witnessed in Star Wars TV. To be honest with you, it's just like one of those like, oh, you just made that canon. Let's go. But also, I think it kind of gives us some insight into who Luthen is, doesn't it? Like in the sense of like, this is something that's very, very important to him. I almost wonder, Mac, and I remember this being a theory when it came out, like, was he in love with the Jedi? Or someone involved with like the Church of the Force, which are not Jedi, but like there's a connection there. Like in terms of like, I don't know, like why would that particular thing be very important to him? It's a kyber crystal, essentially.
Yeah.
Is that someone's kyber crystal that was given to him? Is that like why he fights? You know what I mean? Like a Jedi whom he loved was killed or something like that? I don't know.
That's such, I've never even really thought about its significance to Luthen. So that's a cool idea. Yeah, I mean, like Donnie Yen, forgetting his character's name in Rogue One, Chirrut Imwe, he recognizes
Jin. Well, I was about to bring up her mom had a kyber crystal like that she gave to Jin. So is there like some sort of connection to all that?
Hers was because Jin's mom was a like follower of the Church of the Force, right? That's why she had that. So maybe that is what Luthen's backstory is. It would make sense why he's kind of a historian, and knows about all these ancient artifacts and seems to know a lot about the history of the galaxy and everything. Because, you know, that is what I think you would have to focus on if you were doing Church of the Force stuff.
I don't know. I feel like now that we're talking about it, there's some sort of connection between Jyn Erso's mom and Luthen.
Is it Lara Erso?
Yeah.
Lana Erso, Laura or something
Lana
like
Lang.
that.
Lana Lang
Yeah,
Erso.
Lois Lane Erso.
Yeah. Not that there's a connection like romantically, but like maybe they've crossed each other's paths in a way. I don't know. Yeah. Because Star Wars is a small world. So I don't know. Yeah. So the signet, a piece of history in its own right, serves as a down payment for Cassian, and Luthen warns him that it's worth at least 50,000 credits and potentially adds that he wants it back. Pointedly adds, that he wants it back if Cassian survives. And then soon after Luthen's local contact arrives, a determined human woman named Vel Sartha. And as she approaches, she immediately senses something is amiss, and she starts questioning Luthen. He cryptically replies that things are coming together, and from the cockpit of the Fondor Hullcraft, Cassian watches their tense exchange while the Fondor droid mod unexpectedly speaks to him, its synthetic voice cutting through the moment. I kind of got the sense that Cassian was thinking about, do I just steal the ship right now? And like the droid mod was on to him of like, don't.
Was letting him know that he was being watched. Eyes were on him for sure.
Yeah. So outside, Luthen quickly briefs Vel on Andor's skills, describing Clem as someone who can pilot, shoot, lie, and speak multiple languages. Vel, however, is unimpressed and wary of adding an untested, unknown mercenary to their already delicate operation. She pushes back, doubting the wisdom of bringing in a stranger for such a critical mission, but Luthen remains firm. He presents her with an ultimatum. Either accept Clem into the mission or call off the whole thing. And when Vel protests, Luthen reminds her that this is her opportunity to prove herself as a leader. He then adds almost coldly that Cassian is disposable. So it's kind of like you get the sense that the rebellion, it's not your typical military structure like we just saw with the ISB, right?
Right.
This is a lot of negotiating. This is, are you willing to do this? A lot of bluffing. It's almost like playing a card game in a sense, like between these two characters of like, how far can I push this? And when do I not push?
Yeah. Because I almost think at this time, because Nemik is kind of in the minority in the rebellion right now of having like a lofty idealistic agenda and kind of the manifesto of ideas and stuff like that, right? So I think everybody else is really still looking over their shoulders at everybody else, like wondering if they can trust anybody. And I think it shows at this point you can't really trust any. You don't know the entirety of the situation going on. You're just kind of a cog in this machine. That's you just are having faith that the ends are going to be something of value to the galaxy, I guess. And
it's also one of those things. It's like, from Luthen's point of view, he just kind of hopes that this works out. And if it doesn't work out, it's really kind of no skin off his back in the sense of like, okay, it didn't work. And you kind of get the sense that there's been several of these operations that probably haven't worked.
Yep, absolutely.
And all of them died. You know what I mean?
For sure. And that seems cold and callous and kind of antithetical to what we know the rebellion stands for and everything, but just from a tactical standpoint, it makes sense. That's just kind of how espionage is done.
I think it also reiterates Luthen's incredible monologue later in the series where he says that he uses the tools of his enemies.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those things I think we're seeing of like just the manipulation, hey, either do this or, lose out type thing. So let's jump back into it. At the Pre-Mor Enforcement Headquarters, tensions run high as ISB agent Blevin delivers a crushing blow to the local leadership. Standing before Chief Inspector Hine, Deputy Inspector Cyril Karn, and Sergeant Linus Mosk, Blevin coldly informs them that they are to surrender all comlinks, weapons, and official documents to their empire. Their authority is over. It's done.
Yeah.
All because of this incident, the Empire is now taking over all of the sector.
Yeah, it makes you think that they were probably looking to do that anyway, and this is just kind of the first excuse that they found to go ahead and usurp that authority. That was always gonna happen. This is just the way it did.
Yeah, so Blevin outlines their fates. They're going to be dispatched to a transfer center where they will receive their personal effects before being cast aside. There is no room for negotiation. He also orders them to certify confirmation of their official ISB after action report, which formally details their role in what the Empire now calls the Ferrix incident. Hine, desperate to save face, immediately protests. He says, I had nothing to do with it. And Blevin's like, yeah, that's the point. That's why this happened.
Like, you were in charge. This happened under your watch. Like, you did not keep these young, headstrong kids from blowing this up. So, you are culpable.
Yeah. And then eventually he turns his attention to Karn, that being Cyril. Blevin delivers one final humiliation. He won't even be replaced. His position is simply erased. I think that's a big blow to Cyril because we talked about this in the first 3 episodes. He thought he was so important, and he's not even important enough for them to replace the job. Like, they're just dissolving the job.
Yeah, the thing that was giving him so much worth is not even essential.
Yeah, right. So that's a big blow to him. So with the Morlana system now under permanent Imperial authority, Pre-Mor enforcement is finished. The Empire has taken full control, and there's no going back. Then we cut back to Aldhani as Andor and Vel trek down the rugged highlands. The tension between them remains very palpable. Andor, still filling out his new situation, questions Vel about Luthen's true identity. But she evades the question, reminding him that he had his chance to ask Luthen directly. She also issues a firm warning, do not mention Luthen in the camp at all. Like, we're going to pretend he's not even a person that we know. Just to, protect his identity.
Yeah, Vel is the only individual on the ground that has any kind of contact with the rest of the rebellion network, and I think that contact is only Luthen.
Yeah. They're talking it out. They're trying to lay out what the mission actually is, which they remind us it's to rob the Aldhani garrison. The placement of their camp is strategic, ensuring that they stay off radar of a nearby Imperial airfield. And so with Andor now part of the mission, their team has 7 members, and as they navigate the terrain, the sudden roar of TIE fighters overhead forces them to take cover, and the Empire's presence is very real. So you start to get the sense of like, okay, they're in trouble here because they just came out of nowhere. I love that scene with the TIE fighters roaring over.
Yeah, TIE fighters are always a great way to just symbolize the Imperial oppressive presence. They're always overhead, they're making noise, they're always reminding you that they're watching.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, at the ISB headquarters, Attendant Hurt briefs Supervisor Deidre on the Ferrix incident. This guy, if you told me he was a young Tarkin, I would believe you. His look, his pants, they straight up look like Nazis in this scene.
Absolutely. I actually thought this could be Sinjir at first, just given like his physical description in the book and everything. He's got that kind of lanky, gaunt thing going on. But it ends up being someone else. So that's
kind of creepy looking, to be honest with you. But basically in this scene, they kind of both figure out like the Starpath unit was stolen from Steerguard, which is under her supervision. So that kind of gives her like an open door to start investigating this and potentially start making some moves for herself. That's where she sees this as an opportunity for herself. So then we cut back to Luthen on the Fondor Hullcraft, and the droid mod pilots his ship towards Coruscant by itself, which is really handy. Inside, Luthen undergoes a transformation, donning a gray wig, elaborate purple robes and rings, a stark contrast to his rugged demeanor on Aldhani. I think this is one of my favorite scenes of really the entire show, Mac. His acting is incredible.
Stellan does such a good job, such a great performance. The way that he has to put on the character, even to himself, to feel like the transformation is complete, and then that almost disappointment after he does that. Like he's almost disgusted with himself that he can become this thing that's so different than what he actually is.
And I almost wonder if like he actually did used to be that way, and then something happened to harden him, and now he's got to pretend to be that person. He's no longer that person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but just fantastic scene. I agree with you. It sticks with me for sure.
Yeah, so back on Aldhani, Vel shares the tragic history of the Aldhani Highlands, once home to a thriving people, now displaced by the Empire. The native Aldhani were forced into free enterprise zone in the lowlands, another casualty of Imperial expansion. Basically, where Aldhani is, it's not like an important planet, but it's like an important almost gas station for the Empire. Like it's somewhere they can drop off things and transport things very, very easily.
It's an Amazon warehouse. Like that's for the Empire. That's what it is.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Back at the ISB headquarters, Deidre confronts Blevin over the Ferrix investigation, demanding access to his reports, and Blevin dismisses her request, arguing that Ferrix is under his jurisdiction, but Deidre counters that the Starpath unit discovery, which gives her a legitimate claim to the case. And when Blevin refuses again and tries to pull rank, Deidre calmly informs him that she will escalate the matter to Major Partagaz. So basically it's like, hey, if you make this a thing, I'm going to tell on you. And he's like, I hope you don't fall... Basically, I don't hope you choke on your aspirations, Director Krennic.
Very similar exchange, for sure.
Yeah. At the Rebel camp, while Vel and Andor continue toward camp, the Rebels are on edge, and this is where we kind of meet the team of Aldhani. We get Karis Nemik standing guard. He's dozing off. He's totally asleep, only to be rudely awakened at gunpoint by Avril Skeen, who scolds him for falling asleep on duty. This is the guy who's going to play Ben Grimm in the Fantastic Four with Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, and he was just in The Bear.
With Stinky the Hut.
Made a big, with Stinky the Hut, Rhoda. Jeremy Allen White. Yeah. So, big connections there.
Yeah, this guy's a fantastic actor. And so Skeen and Nemik, they see Andor and Vel coming, and the rest of the Rebel team is immediately like on edge. Like, what is going on? Who is with her? We did not plan for this. She didn't tell us this guy was coming. And when they finally meet, the tension is thick with a capital T.
And three C's.
Yeah. So she introduces him as Clem and insists that he brings critical redundancy in all areas. Barcona, one of the other rebels, voices concern about trusting a stranger, but Vel shuts down further argument that they don't have time for doubt. So Andor is now embedded in the team, but the suspicion lingers. The mission is set, but the trust, that's going to take time. And I think that raises the stake for us as an audience of like, okay, like the team's together, but none of them trust Cassian at all. So how's that going to play out?
Yeah, for sure. Like, is he going to be able to fit in with, are they going to be able to accept him in their ranks? Are they going to be able to incorporate him in the plan and pull this off?
And then back on Coruscant, it is a tense homecoming for Cyril as he descends to the lower levels, disgraced and humiliated. He arrives at his mother's, Edie Karn's, apartment, and the reunion is abrupt. She slaps him across the face immediately and then pulls him into an awkward embrace. And I think we get almost everything we need to know about Cyril in this moment.
Yeah. It's clear that if he had any other choice but than to be standing in front of this door, he would be anywhere else doing anything else. But, he has to come home to mom, and that relationship is weird. It seems like he was like probably trying to get away from her at some point, and that's maybe what the slapping was about.
I don't know.
It's strange. Weird. Certainly sets up some awkwardness to come in the future.
Yeah. So back on Aldhani at the rebel camp, Cinta tends to Andor's arm wound. Though she's careful, the tension remains as Barcona openly questions Clem's presence. He doesn't trust outsiders, especially ones brought in at the last moment. However, Vel stands firm. She vouches for Clem, making it clear that the decision's final. The rest of the team doesn't have to like it, but they have no choice to accept it. And then we switch again. There's a lot of switching in this episode. I think that's what makes the pace feel faster, even though it's not technically faster, is that we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah. It keeps your attention moving.
Yeah. This is where we meet Mon Mothma in the upper echelons of Coruscant's elite district. Inside an ornate gallery filled with rare artifacts, Luthen Rael and his assistant, Marky, meet Senator Mon Mothma. To the outsiders, it's a simple visit to an art dealer, but beneath the polished smiles and small talk about antiquities, they're co-conspirators in the rebellion.
Yeah, this scene is so cool for so many reasons. I love the actual text of the scene that's going on with the espionage, how they're having to keep up all these appearances in public because they are high profile, but they're really accomplishing things like literally behind closed doors or whatever in the back of the shop. And so I love that. But then also, all just the crazy Easter eggs. There's so many stuff from Mandalorian armor to all kinds of stuff.
There's Mortis tablets there. There's Calicori there. There's Star Killer's armor. In the back when they go to talk, Mon Mothma and Luthen, there's Sankara stones from Indiana Jones, huge holocrons. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that really have no story implications for Andor, but it's just really cool to see. And I would love this to be like in Doc Ondar's little thing in Galaxy's Edge.
It's just cool to see so much get little nods and get acknowledgement in something as high profile as this series.
Yeah. So once alone, Mothma speaks frankly. Moving money for their cause has become more difficult. So Mon Mothma's the money mover. She's the one that's funneling the money to the rebellion. That's kind of what we learn in this scene. But the problem is she's being watched, and they think that the driver is one of the ones that is watching her. So he's being distracted by Luthen's assistant, and they're talking. The Empire's grip is tightening, and she knows it's only a matter of time before every move is scrutinized. However, she has taken a risk. She's recruited a new ally. Luthen, ever the strategist, reassures her she can trust him, and by extension, she can trust Marky. So Then they leave. They pretend, like, oh, I was here to get this for my husband, for a gift for him. Here's your gift, and they leave. And we actually get to see like what home life is like for Mon Mothma, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the scene from everything of them setting up that, like, what political life is like on Coruscant. She comes in and he's had a surprise dinner planned. It's not really a surprise. He kind of mentioned it a while ago, but you can tell that, like, they don't communicate super well. He has no interest for what's happening with her career politically. Like, he's inviting her political opponents over for dinner and stuff. And
Yeah.
does not care, that they're, like she says, they're trying to make, they're trying to undo everything I tried to do for people. And now they're going to be sitting across from her at dinner. And just you can tell that, like, tension, there's been a lot of tension between, the couple for a long time. Like, this is not the first incident like this that has occurred.
No, this seems like one of those patterns that they just kind of fall into, that this is a fight that they have literally all the time, and they're both getting tired of it. So this guy's name's Perrin, and if you thought we hated Tim with two M's, this guy's way worse to me. Like, I hate this guy. He mentioned Sly Moore being one of the guests, and that's one of the ones that stands besides Palpatine in the prequels, like when they're in the Senate and stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. But Mon Mothma does mention in this scene that inviting guests from Gorman, a planet suffering under the Empire's control after its shipping lanes were cut off just yesterday, kind of a bad look. And it's the reason I want to bring that up. The Gorman thing is really big for Mon Mothma's character, because what we know from Star Wars Rebels is that she makes a speech about what happens to the Gorman people, and that's what forces her to flee Coruscant and fully invest and be in the Rebel Alliance and leave the Imperial Senate, is because of that speech she gives about the Gorman, which she mentions right here in this episode. And so, Mac, I had this idea. I kind of wonder, I wonder if this is going to come into play in season 2. In Star Wars Rebels, when Mon Mothma is picked up by the Rebel crew, it's after she makes the speech about the Gorman in the Senate. Like, we see her being picked up. She snuck out of Coruscant and handed off to the Ghost crew. What if Cassian is the one who sneaks her out of Coruscant?
Yeah, I think that's very likely. Given all the reasons you just said, the Gorman connection.
What if we see that handoff, but we don't see the characters? We just see the ghost in space or whatever.
Yep, I think that would be sick. And it'd be just a great way to, like, bring Mon Mothma and Andor's stories together. Actually, kind of have them, coincide for a minute. That'd be good. I like that idea.
Yeah, so Perrin dismisses the idea in a detached manner, complains that everything is boring and sad, and that's kind of like, we immediately know what kind of guy this is from the get-go, and we hate him as well. Back on Aldhani, the Rebel team is joined by Lieutenant Gorn, their inside man within the Imperial garrison, and immediately Gorn is wary of Clem and questions Vel's decision to bring him in last minute. However, the urgency of their mission overrides personal concerns, and Gorn brings troubling news. An Imperial engineer from Coruscant is visiting the garrison. This is unexpected, and it could complicate their plans. So what they do is they basically kind of go over a detailed model of the airbase, and they start laying out the stakes, right? Like, here's everything. Here's the vault where we're going to steal this. The base is lightly guarded. There's only 40 Imperial troops stationed there, and they're going to steal the entire quarterly payroll and escape. But here's the escape plan. They're going to use the runway and a starship to flee before reinforcements can respond. And Gorn pretty much gives the most crucial detail, because Cassian's like, wait, this is not going to work, because I saw how fast those TIE fighters came up on us.
Right.
What's going to protect us? And so Gorn gives, okay, Aldhani has this cultural event known as the Eye of Aldhani. It happens once every 3 years, and thousands of Aldhani natives journey to the highlands to witness a magnificent celestial phenomenon. Gorn has witnessed it twice and insists it's a spectacle like no other. So basically these meteors just flying over, and Cassian realized, oh, we're going to use that as our cover to escape, which is really clever. That's why there's a time crunch on this.
Yeah. It makes sense why it has to happen at a certain time. It's a twofold cover too, because you've got everyone distracted with the pilgrims coming in and all the proceedings of the ceremony and all that. You have them also just, they're looking, everybody's going to be looking and fascinated by the celestial event itself. But then also, it actually provides physical protection as well, because if they can get through before the eye closes or whatever, no ships will be able to follow them. So the ships will actually be, physically unable to follow them because of the ice crystals and stuff. So it's really great cover. Makes sense. And it's happening in 3 days.
Yeah. Which that's where there's a time crunch. Anytime there's a time crunch in a movie or a TV show, it just heightens the stakes even more of like, you've got to get it done by this exact moment. Right. So I kind of like that. I like the time crunch. So let's go back to Coruscant. Deidre is at the ISB headquarters, and she takes a risk by bringing her findings directly to Major Partagaz. Here's our case. The Starpath unit recovered on Ferrix originated from a base on Steerguard in her sector.
Check. Seems like that's correct.
Yeah. Her theory is that the theft is not random. It's a part of a larger organized effort to steal Imperial technology for what could be a growing rebellion. She's spot on. Her evidence, 3 previous cases of stolen Imperial equipment, suggests a larger pattern. However, Major Partagaz remains unconvinced. He sees Deidre's investigation as an attempt to overstep her jurisdiction and cause friction within the ISB, but he's okay with that. He kind of is like, I don't mind you playing these games. I'm just not going to let you play it yet.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. He just wants to have total control, right? He doesn't mind unleashing other people's chaos and ambitions and stuff. He just wants to have a reign on it, I think.
Yeah, because she's getting a little maybe too aggressive with it, of like, okay, maybe pull back a little bit and let's see what happens. So she's shut down for now, and then back on Aldhani. Back in the rebel camp, Barcona hands Andor, still known as Clem, the specifications of the Rono freighter and the layout of the Imperial base. Barcona is strict and methodical, expecting Cassian to memorize everything by morning. And he's just like sitting there, he's like looking around. He's like, oh, okay. Vel reinforces the urgency, telling Cassian to let Cinta tend to his wounds before he even thinks about eating. And as the team settles into their tense preparation, Vel takes watch duty, keeping an eye on the hills. And with only 3 days left, failure is not an option, and every second counts. And the episode ends.
Bam. What a fantastic episode. Love the deepening of the conflicts with the introduction of the ISB, and then the deepening of like knowing the machinations of everything that's happening with the rebellion right now, meeting kind of a crew on the ground, seeing what Mon Mothma and Luthen are doing on Coruscant, seeing how the political situation is, playing out in the capital, and just a fantastic episode. It's and it just makes me that much more excited to see, like, are they going to be able to pull it off in the next episode, or is something going to go wrong, or are we even going to be trying it the next episode? And wait, because it's a 3-episode arc, but but that's it. It does a fantastic job of getting me excited for the next installment. Alex, this was so fun to break down.
Yeah, I miss you. I'm giving you a hug right now, virtually. In my mind.
Sending out positive vibes. Yeah, I for sure. I'm glad we got back. We'll try to get back to our normal production schedule. I should have a new and improved recording environment and everything.
Let's go.
So, yeah.
Let's go.
But we'll keep you updated and everything as best as we can. But yeah, thanks for coming with us on the next installment of our Andor rewatch. Subscribe so you don't miss our coverage of Andor Season 2 coming up in April. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars and a review. That'd be fantastic. Goes a long way with getting the show promoted and everything like that. Join the Patreon if you like what we do and you want more bonus content and access to the Discord community and all kinds of stuff like that. Get a link to that in the description. And as of right now, tentatively, we'll be back next week with the next installment of the Andor rewatch. But until then, keep the watch.